Hey everyone, sorry for the couple minutes delay. So today, like I said, we're just going to go over the new evidence updates and what has changed in the spring 2021 semester. So why would we want to use new evidence? First, we want to make sure that new evidence is there so it's applicable to the current political context. So this obviously would, the Biden administration and all the stuff that is going on with impeachment, all those things play into maybe some of our evidence and what's happening. And we want to also keep up with updated economic trends, and that's especially true with the impact of coronavirus that we've seen has really impacted the economy. So if we're reading the reverse mass incarceration affirmative, and this is for JV and novice, this would mean that the changes that we'll see in this packet is that we'll see a new internal link on Biden climate on federalism, and this is on the federalism disadvantage. So if we remember, the internal link is what connects the link to the impact. So this is what's going to argue that federalism is really important for climate change, and it's going to argue specifically in the Biden administration that it's important. And next, we're also going to take out uniqueness evidence on the federalism disadvantage that is related to Trump, because now obviously what Trump is doing and how he's acting federally doesn't really matter anymore, and now what Biden is doing will matter. So just to review what the internal link is again, the link is that the plan destroys federalism. The internal link, or what we're going to be focusing on now, is that federalism is key to solve warming. And we need that piece to get to the last piece, which is the impact, which is what is really bad and what we're trying to stop, that warming causes extinction. So here is the piece of evidence that has been added to the packet. It is just that federalism is key to solve warming. And there I drew out a few reasons from the piece of evidence that it mentions. So first it says that there's a US climate alliance and there's a bunch of states participating in it. It says $11 trillion collective economy. So they're saying that state action has been really important. Then now there's also local sign-ons to the "We Are Still in Paris." So when the US federally did not sign on to Paris, state and local governments were still able to kind of pledge their support and kind of show globally that the US was still involved. So this card says that because of these reasons, it's better to build on existing initiatives, which are subnational, not necessarily federal. And working together would be very important. So that's a reason why. So it strengthens the negatives argument because it's a reason that state involvement is really important, and any breakdown of federalism through the affirmative could be really bad. Also, these are some possible analytic ideas that could be added into this reverse mass incarceration debate, or any debate related to federalism for the second one. So first, an inherency. Maybe you could argue that, hey, Biden is also trying to work on a bunch of criminal justice reforms. His is very expansive. So maybe it'll pass sooner or later because Democrats have control of Congress. So even though we don't might not necessarily have a card for that, we can see that we can just think about what Biden's plans are, what he plans to be doing, and maybe try to see how that would apply to the affirmative. Maybe as an affirmative team to answer this internal link argument, I would say there's no need for a state and local leadership under Biden-Harris administration because they're already really into climate policy. They have a much more aggressive climate agenda, and they plan to rejoin the International Paris Agreement, which is like the International Global Warming Agreement. So these are some possible analytic ideas that you could use with the change in power that's happening right now. Now, going on to the marijuana affirmative. Now, there are a few more changes here in addition to the internal link we just talked about on federalism. So first, we're updating the affirmative and negative economy uniqueness evidence. And by economy uniqueness evidence, I mean what is happening with the economy right now? Is it growing? Is it strong? Or is it weak and ready to dip again? So these are the types of questions that we want to answer there. And next is that we have more evidence on the federalism internal link. So what we just talked about, federalism being key to warming, varsity will take it one step further and then have evidence for both the 1NR as well to answer those. And then there's also a new states counterplan solvency card. So first is the economy uniqueness evidence on the affirmative side. So remember, the affirmative is arguing that the economy is really fragile right now and it needs a plan for the economy to grow again. So these two pieces of evidence, now we can see the dates are way more recent than the other ones, and it's because it's more reflective of what's happening, especially with the evolution of coronavirus and kind of the release of the vaccines, which are more recent. So right now, the reasons it gives for why the economy is not strong is that there's low job growth right now. There's a long impact of COVID-19 because there's so slow vaccine distribution. So even though we have vaccines out right now, they're going out so slowly that these the economic troubles are going to last a long time still. Stimulus, and it argues that stimulus is key to growth at the end of the first piece of evidence, and because it supports individuals and businesses. And the last piece of evidence, so this is an 1AR extension, says that layoffs and businesses closures are still high. So that's what risks a double that's what risks a double dip recession, since that there's a decrease in economic activity there. Next is the negative economy uniqueness. So this means that the negative is trying to argue that the economy is really strong now, and therefore we will not need to do the affirmative. The reasons that the negative evidence gives is that there's new startups and new technological applications that people are making. There's the new vaccines out, so that would be available soon and help the stock market. Then the next piece of evidence, so the 1NR extension, says that the GDP growth is up, real estate industry is really strong, and investment is increasing. So that argues that these factors are what is key to the economy. So at the end, we're gonna, when you're actually debating, you're gonna have to go through kind of these lists of reasons and try to determine which ones are more important and which ones are most important to economic growth, and argue why. And that's what's gonna really help you out with this debate. So now onto the federalism updates. On the affirmative, this is 1AR internal link defense. Now, what I mean by this is that the negative and the 1NC just presented the internal link. Federalism is key to solve warming. And in that piece of evidence, it really talked about why state leadership and state action is key. And now as the affirmative, you want to respond to that. So this evidence is arguing that state policy isn't key and Biden will take the lead on climate. So like I mentioned before, the varsity actually has a piece of evidence for this, but Biden will take the lead on climate without the states because they'll be carbon free. He has goals to be carbon free by 2035. They pledged to rejoin the Paris Agreement. There's massive climate investment going on right now. So you can give all these reasons as reasons that the state involvement isn't really necessary, because all those things are going to happen regardless. And next, the next side of things, the 1NR. This is the extension of the internal link. So now we're back again arguing that federalism and state action is key. And it says that even if Biden has all these big plans, he won't be able to act immediately because there's so many other priorities. Like we have coronavirus going on right now, the economic recovery, court packing, because there needs to be, after a new judge was appointed last term. So there's a lot of other issues going on right now. And since climate change is such a hot button issue, it's unlikely that that's going to be tackled anytime soon. So even if it is important, that's why state and local pressure is still really good. So now you can see that this debate is getting a little more nuanced, and we're getting a little bit deeper into kind of the federalism portion of the debate, which I think is really good.